Yeah. Hello everyone. Thanks for being here and joining our webinar with Alison Pullen, in which we are introducing or launching or premiering Feminism and Organization. I'm doing all the technical stuff here, so I may be a little bit delay in my reactions. That's why, because I'm also gatekeeping. I will be introducing, I mean, Alison doesn't need an introduction, but let me introduce her because many of you have crossed paths with Alison somehow, or her work. So let me see. Alison is a professor of gender work and organization at Macquarie University, Australia. Over the course of her career, her scholarship has focused on analyzing and intervening in the politics of work, particularly in relation to gender, discrimination, identity politics, and organizational injustice. And alongside this role, Professor Pullen is the joint editor, chief in gender work and organization, associate editor of organization, and serve on the editorial board of organization studies. These are the leading journals of our field. And her recent research engages with themes such as everyday activism, actionable hope, feminist responses to anti-DEI politics, and the development of corporeal approaches to solidarity and ethics, foregrounding embodiment, vulnerability, and relationality in organizational life. Alison Pullen recognized with her on her outstanding scholarly contribution and awarded British Academy of Management Research Medal in September 2023. So this is just a brief introduction to who Alison is. But why we are here? We are here because she's the founding editor of Feminism and Organization, a new international journal published by Bristol University Press that represents a significant intervention, hopefully, in organization studies. And today we are going to talk about why this journal is needed, what makes it distinctive, and how it seeks to practice feminism through its editorial vision, structure, and peer review culture. Alison, thank you very much for being with us all the way from Eskişehir to Sydney.
Thank you so much for the invitation, Ozan. And I'm speaking to you from the land of the Gadigal people. And they would appreciate me paying my respects to the indigenous people who have been the owners of this land, but the land still remains unceded.
Thanks for this acknowledgement also. So let's start today. The first question, Alison, I would like to start with a very fundamental question. So why do we need feminism and organization now? Because we can see feminist scholarship presented in organization studies in different outlets. And what made this journal not just timely, but necessary?
Yeah, that's a very, very good question. And some people would say that the Board of Feminism and Organization, when they created this journal, were a little bit silly in creating a sole space for feminist work, given that these days you can publish feminist theory, feminist methodology, feminist analyses of empirical work in a range of journals. But that was exactly the reason why we decided to build the journal as it is currently, because there wasn't one journal for feminist work. And we had a very simple idea to be a home for feminist work in management and organization studies from a critical perspective, where people could focus solely on developing feminist work under one umbrella organization, but also to recognize that in feminist traditions historically and now, It's not just a focus on writing academic articles, but also incorporating a range of traditions and formats to that work. And maybe we can talk about that a little bit later. So this journal hopes to bring feminist scholarship and activism and praxis together from different parts of the world in one place. And that's not to bring that work in order to speak to the global north or Western traditions of doing feminist work in organization studies, but to be a hub, as it were, for locally relevant work that speaks and educates us in other parts of the world, without needing to justify why feminist work is relevant. And maybe, you know, there is a more political answer to this, in that mainstream research is growing much faster than critical research. So it's very much a political project. We see the journal as a movement that addresses the inequalities that we see. I couldn't put the news on this morning because I couldn't see yet again the broadcasts of not only structural, systemic, violent inequalities around the world, but just lack of human rights. So I'm hoping that this journal can be a space where people want to contribute, that add their voices to addressing increasing authoritarianism, increasing capitalist greed, increasing violence towards the most marginalized populations. And currently, you know, we've never needed feminist anti-fascist work more than ever. So maybe I should stop there, given that you're recording.
Yeah, I mean, you put why now in a very, very good way. I mean, yeah, it should be now, I think. And speaking of differences in different outlets, you have other editorial roles, and you've been to different conferences. You know what's going on in different outlets and different and academia. So what is going to be different with this journal, like in terms of politics, epistemology, understanding of what feminist scholarship can and should be? You talk a little bit
Yeah,
about, but can we elaborate on that?
yeah. I think what's going to be different, if different communities contribute, is to have a space for anti-racist, critical feminist, queer research that addresses the imperial, colonial, patriarchal roots that contribute to the inequalities that I just mentioned. I think I think epistemologically, I'm not sure that it's different. What I would say is that given feminist traditions, theory, methods, etc., feminist activism, epistemologically, I'd see the journal incorporating a range of ways of knowing. Like I would see the journal housing a range of methodological traditions. I think what's different practically is that the journal will be published by Bristol University Press, a not-for-profit publisher, and also a publisher that has in-house editorial and production staff working for that not-for-profit publisher. So that aligns with the critical feminist work that many of the board have done over decades. So actually working collaboratively with a publisher that's actually interested in developing feminist work in its plurality and multiplicities is really important for us. So when you look at the board, you see people with politics backgrounds, you see people from accounting, you see people from sociology, from migration studies, and of course we've got some current geographical and disciplinary and maybe political gaps that we can come back to if you want to. But very much we've come together to pull our different ways of working together in order to be the only feminist organization studies journal in the field that challenges or seeks to challenge various forms of oppressions, give voice to a range of researchers, practitioners, activists, to have, have debate and dialogue. And speaking very selfishly, I want a journal that will become my hobby. So on the weekend, I go to the journal and I want to read every article because I want to see what the latest debates and ideas are. Whereas I don't want to be searching amongst the bigger journals that are publishing feminist pieces. And of course, they are really important. But to read almost like a book from start to finish feminist work, I think will be emancipatory and inspiring, even when we're working on the very tough problems that feminist work does.
Yes. Thank you. And one of the striking features of the journal is its structure. I mean, other journals have, but this one has a non-traditional contribution section and the feminist media review section, and
Yeah.
it's is also edited by our dear colleagues. And would you like to tell us about these sections? How did you come up with together with your colleagues, and
Yeah.
what is expected from these special sections?
Yeah. Thank you, Ozan. Well, the feminist media section, which is currently edited by Sarah Zamda, an Iranian woman working in the UK. She is currently working on book reviews on feminist texts. So if anybody wanted to review books, or if anybody had books that they wanted reviewed that spoke to the feminist communities around the world, please get in contact with us, and Sarah will work with you to develop those reviews. Currently, she's working on written reviews of books. But given the different forms of cultural expressions that we now see at journals, I think in future we will look to think about how to develop podcasts, etc. So that, and ideally in more languages than English. And that's going to be an ongoing conversation and project. So Sarah is the feminist media editor, doing a great job there. And Alexia Panayotou Cypriot woman working in Cyprus. She's we call it currently the non-traditional submissions section. And that really is a place where maybe more experimental forms of writing and working can be read. Certainly a space that reflects the alternative ways of engaging with feminist communities and the feminist activism that's done. I'm thinking of, poetry and song and art exhibitions and people actually writing alternative, some people call it experimental forms of writing or alternative forms of writing. But currently, Alexia sees that section as a space for contributions that fall outside the traditional academic article. And it is flexible in the sense that it's you can submit. We currently have a guideline of 3,000 to 5,000 word submissions, but of course it could be a little bit less or a little bit more depending on those contributions. But I think it's a place where we can imagine different futures, perhaps a place to be playful and dream, but also a place where perhaps a lot of the violence is experienced by members of our communities can be represented in different ways. So that's the idea of having those different sections to actually reflect feminist traditions of working in different formats and having a journal that is a home for different forms of submissions. And of course, other journals do that now. So we will be driven by making sure that it's speaking to the feminist traditions in different parts of the world.
Good. Looking forward to reading or maybe listening or maybe watching them.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Yeah, and it's going to take a lot of skilled people to do the different formats. So
Yeah.
that is work in progress, and will require different generations to my own to take that forward.
Yeah. And you talk about a little bit about the diversity of the editorial boards or associate editors, editorial review board. I mean, editorial boards are never neutral. So when you think about this feminism and organizations, associate editors and editorial review boards, so what kind of commitments, diversities, forms of expertise when this collective was getting together?
Yeah, that's a very hard question, actually, because I never thought about it in that way until you just posed that. And maybe I can explain. When this journal was dreamt about nearly 2 years ago now, the range of people, many of them on the advisory board and associate editor board, had been working on this dream of having a feminist journal. They are people that had contributed to feminist organization studies. They had people who had been advising many of the associate editors in the past. They are people that had worked together in many different ways over many years. So the boards were put together on the basis of people who had known each other, worked together, who wanted to do the work in creating and taking a new journal forward that was solely devoted to anti-racist, queer, feminist critical work. And it was that broad at that point. And then as time went on, different people on the associate editor team recommended other people to join that board. But we're now at the point where we have the boards in place, as they were over a year ago when we put the proposal to the publisher. And we will, in the next few weeks, put out a call for more board members, because we recognize there are geographical gaps. So I've been talking to some people around Indigenous feminism, trans feminism, for example, that addresses both the geographical gap, the political gaps that we might have, but also gaps in expertise. So a call will go out, and I'd encourage people to apply. If you're interested in working on the journal, maybe as an associate editor, bring in your expertise to that, or to the editorial review board, because look, academics in 2026 will be stretched thinner than ever, and we will need as many hands and heads and hearts as we can to take this forward, because we will launch in between July and September this year, and we will publish 1 to 2 issues this year, and then only grow into 4 issues a year. So the intention is to have a journal that we can read and engage with, rather than be a publication machine. But we will need people around the world with various expertise that perhaps we don't have currently. So thank you for that, Ozan. So that's how we've tried to capture some regions, but we haven't captured some local knowledges yet, because I think it's really important that people come forward with that commitment or interest to join the journal in different ways. And over time, the boards will change.
Yeah, thank you very much. And yeah, so it's a kind of like an invitation for people to be alert, so that the call may come, and then when they see, they can apply for it as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll make sure that I'll share that with you, Ozan, for this Turkish Academy of Management.
Yes.
Absolutely. And there will be calls for special issues of the journal, and whatever other opportunities come up in future, including, editors at various levels.
Good. Yeah, we'll happy to share it. One thing that, as far as I remember, while you were doing OM CMS session chairs together with our Ozan, I think maybe my mind is a little bit blurry. So you did like a reviewer development workshop. Am I right? It was online during COVID.
Yes, we did. We
Yeah.
did.
So I'm
We
just
did.
thinking about, like, peer review is generally treated or experienced as gatekeeping rather than care. So I see the care in those workshops. So what type of peer review culture should authors expect from feminism and organization?
Oh, thank you for this, Ozan. We never know how the review process is going to go, but given that it's a feminist journal with feminist values, we hope the review process will be feminist too. I think, from my perspective as the editor currently, I can promise a non-violent, non-discriminatory review process. And that's why I was laughing when you were asking the question, because it's quite hard to survive the review process these days. And we sometimes read reviews and editorial letters that are nothing more than offensive, right? I would never send that out, I can promise that. The board that we have in place would never write those letters either. So I think we can safely say that it is you used the word caring process, but also, rigorous process where your work is reviewed by experts for traditional submissions. For non-traditional submissions, they are handled with our editorial board in-house. And Sarah Zamdia will manage the review process. And we are working together closely. And it is a caring process. It's a developmental process for all of us. Somebody said to me the other day, I think if I didn't have this connection, I would quit academia. And I said, hold on, that's a bit ambitious, right? But really, I think in dark, desperate times, being able to collaborate and work well together and for a space to be nourishing is really important for me and for the editorial board. And having worked with Bristol University Press, I can safely say they've been an absolute joy. So, yeah.
Yeah. And also, speaking of the Bristol University Press, I think we should also thank Thea for sharing the materials with us. So I think she's the
Yes.
one doing the technical stuff on the publisher side.
Yeah, amazing team. And when you write to Feminism Organization email, Rachel is there every day. We're in contact every day. Just very nice people who are committed to the feminist cause. So that makes everything quite easy.
Yeah. We are coming to the end of this webinar, unfortunately. But before we finish, I have got two more questions. Like when you think about like early career researchers and those working with, what kind of contributions are you most hoping to receive? You talked a
Yeah,
little bit about it, but
Yeah, look, I think that's really hard. I think the contributions that we would like to see are the contributions that people are working on. I think given the trajectory of the field, there are a lot of people working on, for example, feminist care ethics or feminist anti-fascism, feminist social movements, human and non-human relations in relation to various forms of inequalities and the movement towards social justice. I think a lot of papers that I've seen currently that we've had, I should say that we've had submitted already are studies of particular types of workers in particular types of industries that experience various forms of discrimination and inequality. We are seeing papers come in with a strong feminist philosophical orientation. We're seeing work on masculinity and violence. We're seeing some autobiographical work from different parts of the world, written in different languages to English, so English and another language. And I won't say more because that might give the work away. So we are looking at ways where we can incorporate some of the native tongue text alongside the English format. And maybe in the non-traditional section, there's more flexibility there. I think as we move forward, there will be a lot more work on the role of feminists and feminism in combating or challenging authoritarianism. Feminist work on climate activism and degrowth, and Ozan will know more about degrowth than I, but very much looking at, what are our current challenges in society? What's the role of organizing, feminist organizing in that? What's the role of feminist theory in developing new concepts, new ways of advancing the field? What don't we know yet? What's going to take the field forward? Are people experimenting with different methodologies? So a journal with papers that engage closely with the feminist work of the past, but also papers that show us what we don't know yet or what we haven't seen yet. So a commitment to tradition, but also encouraging the field to move forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good mix. Uh-huh. Cool. And you talk about the accomplishment or success. I mean, I think the best way that you put, like, for a journal, as you said, that having your Sunday coffee in the morning and then take the journal out and read it, I think that's a
Yeah.
big accomplishment for an academic outlet.
Yeah.
I don't think nothing more than that. But in 5 years' time, how do you see the journal? I think that that's
Yeah.
more than enough.
Yeah. Look, imagine it for me, and then perhaps I say something a bit more ambitious, but for me, it is about having a journal that I want to read from the start to the end. And of course, that's difficult with online journals for somebody as old as I am now. Um, but I think a successful journal will be a journal that's read by the communities in different parts of the world locally, that contribute to transnational debates, that's read by academics and non-academics, where non-academics contribute to the journal too in the non-traditional submissions maybe, or in other ways, so that there is a genuine engagement between academia and the people doing the work on the streets and in the organizations that tackle the violences and inequalities that we know exist. So yeah, I hadn't thought about, I'm sure maybe some people might think about metrics and impact factor and things, but I think that would spoil the journey. And I'm very excited to see what the board will do with the journal. I am a small part of it, and the way that they'll take that forward will be very interesting to see.
Mhm. Cool. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, time flies and my questions over. Yeah, I would like to thank you a lot for being with us, and then I will open the session for Q&A later. But thank you very much for this opportunity. It was a fruitful, refreshing uh, conversation. Thanks a lot. And now it says. Q&A. I'm just stopping the recording.